What is up, everyone? Welcome to a new video, a new Thoughts On. We're finally getting these rolling again on the channel for the end of the year. Today we're talking about the aptly named Hitman of 2016, which, in retrospect, the title of the game is a little confusing because this is the 6th Hitman game in the series. There isn't a whole lot about it mechanic-wise that is different from previous Hitman games. And it's not a reboot either. This isn't like Doom 2016. No, this is Hitman. Yeah, Hitman is probably one of the most underrated games of 2016, not gonna lie. And I think a lot of that stems from the fact that maybe people were so burned out with Hitman Absolution, which was by no stretch of the imagination it was not really a Hitman game. It was more like an action game that required you to be stealthy and rewarded you for being stealthy. But otherwise, it was pure played like an action game with a Bourne-esque story, which really didn't fit for the Hitman character. It almost systematically ruined the identity of Agent 47. So, if you were a Hitman fan when that came out, my heart goes out to you. I didn't discover the series quite yet until, a year later maybe, and then I played through more of the games. But no, Hitman is Square Enix's attempt to breathe life back into the series and to go, you know what, fans, we really effed up with the last one. We want to make sure we do a really good job this time around. Another reason it may have not got as much attention as it probably deserved was probably because of its episodic release model. Some of you may have not heard of this, but when the game was initially announced at E3 2015, I want to say, they said it was going to be a full game. After a few delays, they said the game's actually going to be episodic, and that raised a lot of red flags. I kept mine down because I just wanted to see what Square Enix was going to do with the game, if the episodic release model was going to pay off, and if it would serve the game in some way. Did it do that? We'll have to find out. These are my thoughts on Hitman. So the Hitman series has never really placed a huge emphasis on story. There's always some sort of, meta narrative or something going on in the background to sort of weave all your targets together. And usually when you get to the end of the game, you start getting more compelling reasons for going after the targets you do, and it kind of ramps up to what is supposed to be a finale. And that's traditionally how most of the Hitman games have played. Of course, the exception to this, as I mentioned earlier, was Hitman Absolution, which was an attempt at making Hitman more story-focused. Now, I think any game can benefit from a narrative. There are very few games I feel would be better off without a narrative. But then I had the chance to fully play Hitman Absolution, and I really don't know if it's the approach to the game or the approach to how they wrote that story, being an action, Bourne-esque, type of story, but it just didn't work. And it worried a lot of fans of if this was the direction the series was going to be taking in the future. Would every Hitman game have a story? Would it try to, push this cutscene-driven story down everyone's throats in favor of what has always been best in Hitman, and that is its sandbox gameplay? And as it turns out, in the 2016 Hitman, what we get is what the series has traditionally had, which is a meta story in the background that links all your targets together in a logical way. And you don't necessarily know why or what your purpose is for going after the targets you are right off the bat. All you know is you're having fun doing it. And as long as the game doesn't confuse me with the lack of a narrative, it's completely fine by me. Now, in between episodes, there are these cutscenes. They're really well made. In fact, they almost go for a spy thriller type of vibe, which is a much better approach for the Hitman character. But they don't really say a whole lot. You get this one really cool cutscene in between each episode. You watch it once. You never feel compelled to watch it again, because almost nothing happens in it. Now, that is not a bad thing at all, necessarily. It just seems a little bit confusing that they spent so much time on these really well-made cutscenes when story was never really a big focus in Hitman to begin with. Hitman, while it does not have a great story, totally gets a pass for almost not having one at all. Instead, IO Interactive wisely recognized what needed to be done right in this game opposed to the last game, and that was the sandbox stealth gameplay. And fortunately enough, I can safely and satisfyingly say that the gameplay in Hitman is perhaps some of the best social stealth gameplay in a sandbox game ever. So let me just walk you through how a typical mission in Hitman might just go. So after you're briefed by Diane Burnwood, who's your handler for the ICA, you go to a planning screen where you can select the items you want to carry with you into a mission. And once you're spawned into the map, the game literally just says, go kill your targets. It doesn't give you any specific objectives. It doesn't force you in any direction or, have you kill your target in a very specific way. It literally just plops you in and says, go nuts. Now, if you're not used to playing stealth games, you're probably going to have a really hard time starting out in Hitman. It's not easy to kill your targets necessarily. There really are no gimme moments for your targets because no matter what you do, there's a chance that you could be cut down on spot if you just spawn in, try to shoot your target, or throw a knife at their, or whatever. If you go for an obvious kill in this game, you're going to have a really hard time. This is a game that's meant to be played stealthily. It's meant to be played cleverly. It's designed for players who exploit their opportunities, because that's what this game has been about, and it's part of what makes the journey to killing your targets so damn fun. One of the main mechanics of the game is disguises. You have to change your disguises to sneak into new areas where you would be recognized if you were wearing, say, a civilian outfit otherwise. Getting a disguise, though, doesn't guarantee that you won't be noticed, because there are people who have a similar disguise who obviously, and this makes a lot of logical sense, they recognize everyone, say, in their military unit or in their security unit, and they're going to go, wait a minute, I don't know who that guy is. And at this point, all you got to do is avoid those people, which can be difficult at times. And slowly but surely in all these levels, if you chain your disguises together, if you pick the right disguise for each area, you find the right opportunities within each area, you will get closer and closer to killing your target exactly how you want to kill them. And trust me, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of ways to kill your targets in each of these levels. Probably some of my favorite kills in the game were, say, in one level, you could actually find an explosive golf ball, set it up in place of a normal golf ball, have your target come over, tee it with his club, and then he explodes and flies towards the sky. In another mission, you could impersonate your target's yoga instructor, get them into a yoga lesson, and then kill them however you might choose to during the yoga lesson. After preparing a tuk-tuk for your target to ride, you could create a fuel leak, walk your target over to the tuk-tuk, and then watch them go off in a burst of flames as they turn on the tuk-tuk, the engine, the emissions come out, and boom, the tuk-tuk pretty much explodes. On every map, there's some sort of tower point where you can climb to the top and grab a sniper rifle and assassinate your targets, and it's pretty satisfying every time you do it. Any instance where you poison your target's drink, then they go to the bathroom to puke up whatever they just ate or drank, you could drown them in the toilet. If your target's leaning over a balcony, you can push them off. If you're hanging from the balcony and they're leaning over the balcony, you could pull them off. If you awkwardly walk into the same room as your target and you have a knife in hand, you can throw it at their face. The point is, you can kill your targets in Hitman literally any way imaginable. The fact that every level has 2 targets, heck, one of them has 4 targets, means that you could definitely change up your kills each time. You're not going to be able to kill your target the same way every time. So you kind of have to get really creative. And once again, as I said, that type of creativity is super, super rewarding. Every other minute detail about this game is all on point. The controls are great. When I want to do something, the controls let me know exactly how to do it, when I can do it. There's almost no confusion with controls. The maps are in fact packed with Easter eggs, and if you ever listen in on some of the conversations of civilians, they have some pretty entertaining stuff. Heck, there's some references to stuff that happened in 2016 in there, such as Donald Trump. The more you play all these levels, you gain a mastery of the level, which unlocks new starting locations, new starting items, and boosts the amount of fun you're going to have each time you go back into the level. The only real negatives I have about the stealth, or the gameplay in this game, and you could really perceive this as a nitpick, is that every mission has a handful of gimme opportunities. Opportunities where you walk around the world, you listen in on a civilian's conversation, it gives you an opportunity, and this is the only instance in the game where you're given an objective. It's an optional objective. You can choose to ignore it and kill your target how you were planning to, but these objectives, if you follow through with them, give you the means to kill your target in a really creative way, a way that's usually exclusive to that level. Doing these opportunities doesn't require a whole lot of intense thought. It doesn't require to be as creative as how creative you need to be with other kills. Could have been taken away. You could still have that unique kill opportunity in place. It would just be much harder to find without the opportunity. And a legitimate flaw with the game is that there is an annoying overuse of voice actors. There's maybe 3 or 4 male voice actors that are cycled through the entire game. We're talking hundreds of civilian conversations with just the same 3 male voice actors. Thankfully, Agent 47's voice actor is still really good. Diane Burnwood sounds good, and all the other characters sound great. But the civilians, oh my gosh. If there's anything this game can do for Season 2 that I would be very, very happy, and I would hope they'd fix, is get a better budget so they can afford more voice actors. Get a more variation in the crowds of people. Because some games like Skyrim have a big problem with repeating voices. Not like Hitman. Hitman is way worse. The last thing I want to comment on is the episodic release model of the game. Because this is the reason I think a lot of people were deterred from getting Hitman on launch. Because there wasn't a whole lot to the game at launch. Essentially, from the beginning, IO Interactive's plan for the episodic release model of this game was to release one big level each month over 6 months. So you would have, at the end of the 6 months, 6 big levels. Initially, this did not seem like a lot of content. Only 6 levels, that would seem like it would only take a few hours to do. Of course, after playing the game and seeing how massive these levels are and how time-consuming they can be, that's not the case. Folks, the episodic model in this game is not just the cut and dry, you play the level for this month, come back in a month, play the next level. I mean, you can certainly do that, but every week, heck, bi-daily in some instances, in between these episodes, the developers would release online content that you could use to kind of absorb these levels, that you could kind of use to immerse yourself in the game even further, unlock more things, gain more mastery of certain levels, familiarize yourself better with the levels, and this was through a series of modes. One of those modes is the Escalation Contracts mode. Essentially, in this mode, the game will assign a certain target in the level. It will just be a different target from what you had during the mission. It will give you a certain requirement as to how to kill them, whether that be wearing a disguise, using a certain weapon. And then, as you successfully kill your targets, and with each of these requirements, you escalate. It escalates. It goes into another stage. There's 5 stages total. Each stage adds another requirement or a target or makes it harder for you to complete your objective. To the point where you're at stage 5 and you're basically doing a massive circus balancing act of trying to kill your target. And surprisingly enough, these are actually fun. As annoying as that would sound as to how the game is forcing you to kill someone, it really challenges you to get creative and go, I know exactly where to find the disguise. I know exactly where to find that weapon. Aside from that, there is a contracts mode where you can create your own contract, your own assassination for the game. Basically, you just go into a level, you pick a random NPC, or it doesn't have to be random, it just depends on what you pick, and then you add any requirements necessary to how to kill them. And some of these are pretty cool. There's one of them where, in the Italian level, you could find a target who looked like Mario and then a target who looked like Luigi. And the objective, of course, was to kill both of them, which is kind of funny. I mean, if there's anything at all I can say after the first season of Hitman, is that I feel it was well worth the $60. In fact, this is one of the few games I've bought this year that really felt like $60. Actually, I didn't buy it. My friend bought it for me as a gift. But regardless, it really does pay off. And that's mostly due to the fact that the developers worked hard as hell to make Hitman a consistent stealth experience from beginning to finish. There are almost no lulls in this game, aside from the ones you create for yourself when you just can't figure out how to kill a target and you're stumped. And honestly, at the end of the day, knowing this is the game we got after all the episodes were released and all the modes were released and everything, knowing this is the game we got with an episodic formula versus the one we got with a full game, at the end of the day, I'd honestly say I prefer the episodic formula for this game. But what you get at the end of the day is a $60 game with tons of replay value. And might I say, it is probably one of my favorite games of 2016. It baffles me how this game is not getting more recognition. If you see it in physical release in 2017, I would totally pick it up. Heck, you can buy it digitally now, and I think it'll be well worth the money spent. I'm really looking forward to what IO Interactive is going to do with Season 2 of the game, which is a complete surprise that they're actually doing it. And I have no idea how it's going to go, if they're going to do more giant levels, if there's going to be a more story emphasis. I don't know. We'll have to see. But all I know for now is that Hitman is perhaps one of the best stealth games, best social stealth games I've ever played. It has set the bar And I'm going to be playing it again and again and again until I've basically exploited every opportunity in all the games. One last thing to say before I finish, and I kind of commented on this earlier, but if you're not a very big stealth fan, i.e. you're not very good at stealth games, you might want to refrain from getting Hitman, because this is a game purely for stealth players. So guys, that basically wraps up everything I have to say about Hitman. Tell me in the comments below if you've played the game. Do you like Hitman? Do you not like it? What's your experience been with this game? And have I convinced you to get the game in some way? Please let me know that as well in the comments below. And a little bit of discussion point to end off with. This game, of course, like I said, had an episodic release formula. Do you think this is where the future of gaming is going? Towards the idea of you get a good bit of content at launch, and then as the game over the months, as people play the game, you start getting more and more content outside of DLC. Let me know in the comments below. That's all I gotta say for today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you all later. Peace.